Here's my audience. Quick, what's the first thing that comes to people's mind when they think about the University of Kansas? Basketball, right? To think it all started back in 1891 with a brown leather ball and two measly peach baskets. The brainchild of James Naismith and the development of basketball led to our beloved Allen Fieldhouse, which has hosted some of the most exciting experiences in campus history. Here's a picture of the inside of Allen Fieldhouse. Most of you probably know a little something about the man who invented the game and the fieldhouse that's given this college town of 90,000 such a clear and envied identity. But I'm here to fill you in on everything else, where it all started and how it turned into something so special. So I assume you know all the basics. James Naismith, two peach baskets, and a leather ball. But there's a lot more to the man and the game's development. As stated in the research article by Kansas Heritage, the concept of basketball actually came from a backyard game called Duck on a Rock that he played while growing up in Ontario, Canada. Naismith and his friends played in their one-room schoolhouse, taking turns trying to knock a toy duck off a rock. He took that childhood game with him to the YMCA in Springfield, Massachusetts, where he desperately needed an active game for his kids to play in the winter. In 1891, the first game of basketball was played using two peach baskets and a soccer ball. A common misconception is that the game was actually invented in Lawrence. That's a fun thing to claim, but it is not true. It happened in Springfield, Massachusetts, but it was made famous here, so we do have that. It is also kind of fun to look over the original rule book, which I found online on the USA Basketball website. For instance, in the original rule book, after each basket, there was a jump ball at midcourt. If the ball went out of bounds, the first one to get it keeps it. So you can imagine some of the scrambles once the ball went out. Also, 3 straight fouls on the same team meant 2 points for the other team. In 1898, Naismith moved to our beloved Lawrence to teach gym class and coach the basketball team. He also continued his practice as a sports physiology doctor, in addition to being a Presbyterian minister. Needless to say, he wasn't just cooped up in his room inventing the game. He had a lot on his plate. He retired in 1907, finishing with a record of only 55 and 60. Yes, the man who invented basketball lost more games than he won. He was the only coach at KU to ever have a losing record. Naismith passed away in Lawrence, fittingly, in 1939. Naismith never got the pleasure of coaching in the legendary Allen Fieldhouse. A bill was passed to begin building back in 1949, but it took a few years to get the necessary funding. To get the bill passed, the founders had allowed the Fieldhouse to be used as an armory and ROTC drill hall for World War II, if necessary. It was never used, keeping the gym as a basketball-only heaven. Naismith also, according to an article on Hoop Zone, lost a vote in the University Daily Kansan 924-10 to Phog Allen to have the Fieldhouse named after him. His name is on the court, though, and even though he had passed away, he played a central role in the first game at Allen. On March 1st, 1955, the Jayhawks took down K-State 77-66 in front of an overflowing crowd of 17,228, still a record today. Kansas Heritage also describes a halftime presentation, a 10-minute-long reenactment of Naismith inventing the game. Phog Allen spoke to the crowd after, and a band played to commemorate the opening. The presentation was a huge hit with a sellout crowd. KU's dominance has spanned a lot of changes to the Fieldhouse. As described on an ESPN article on Allen, the Fieldhouse went through some big renovations in 2006. Among the highlights of the $3.5 million renovations are the HD video board and the larger restrooms and concession stands. The capacity has settled in at 16,300, so the attendance record from the first game will never be broken. Hoop Zone, who also details the $8 million museum, also dedicated in 2006, which features the center circle of the very first slab of hardwood ever used in Allen. The museum is a goldmine of memorabilia and tradition. Allen Fieldhouse is an icon, a place where tradition comes alive, and the presence of the legend who wore the retired jerseys is always felt. Like the legendary Wilt Chamberlain, who holds the record for the most points ever scored in a basketball game with an outstanding 100 points. And here's Wilt Chamberlain after that game with a 100-point marker. James Naismith's creativity has given this college town more enjoyment and satisfaction than almost any other place in the world. Without it, we wouldn't have the hallowed grounds of Allen Fieldhouse, not to mention the great game of basketball itself. Without Naismith, how else would we respond to the disses about the football team? Not with wait till basketball season, that's for sure. Thank you, and next time we were all in the student section chanting Rock Chalk Jayhawk during another blowout. I hope you remember how it all began and the man who invented the game and turned this city into the heart and soul of basketball. Here's my audience again.